Hi everyone, this is a quick update on Nio stock specifically, although I will look a bit on Xpeng as well. We can see that the stock had a really good run over the past 3 months. It actually peaked a couple of weeks ago at the early in the beginning of October, over $7, but now we are down to $5.5. Although you could say that possibly that we will see another rebound soon. I think it's very logical that a stock doesn't only go up. It should be realistic that it kind of zigzags it ways up like. But going to the data, we can see here the most important part for me is the trend. The blue is Tesla as usual. Nio is the white. The yellow or the orange one is Xpeng, and LiAuto is the green one. And as you see there, it's a very strange thing happening on the 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's essentially the Chinese holiday. These numbers we don't essentially have exact data on, so I try to take a guess based on the numbers that came in later for the monthly deliveries of the month of September for each of these companies. And since we kind of knew roughly how much they delivered each week prior to the last week of September, these are the rough numbers that we could get for them. And you can see that Xpeng should have had a really, really strong week 39. I mean, 8,000 or so. Even if I'm wrong but a couple of thousand, it's probably one of their best, if not the best, delivery numbers for Xpeng. Same goes for Nio. Although I know Nio probably had a couple of weeks close to 7,000, but that one should have been a great one. But the important thing for Nio is look at this. So there's another border for me, which is Onvo, Nio's second brand Onvo. And in the numbers that they just released earlier today, we have around 5,600 cars delivered for Nio over the past week. If you look at the traditional Nio brand and Onvo. Now, some people are a bit disappointed because they say that, Onvo should have, yeah, I don't know, tens of thousands of deliveries, I guess. Not maybe not tens of thousands, but at least a couple of thousand per week. But I think it's really important to remember the numbers that the CEO gave a couple of weeks ago in late September. They mentioned 5K or so deliveries for October, right? And if they should deliver 5K in October, I mean, it's very good numbers that we then had now at 900 or so, let's say 1,000 deliveries essentially on 1 week. So I think these numbers are, actually confirming what the CEO said a couple of weeks ago. I mean, at this rate, we are, kind of trusting what they are saying now. I know there's been a little bit of trust issue with Nio, especially the previous CFO that kind of left last year. He was over promising in 2022. I think he said they should deliver well over 250,000 cars or 300,000 cars in 2023. And I think market started to mistrust the company. But now that guy left, and I think this new number that they gave looks like they are kind of, very realistic with those numbers. And again, looking at the trends here, you can see specifically for Nio in the white there, it's quite a little bit up and down, but mostly the strong trend upwards. If you look from the beginning of the year, where at best we had like, I don't know, average of a couple of thousand, maybe at best 3,000. But as we go onwards, we can see that we have a lot of weeks over 3,000, or most of the weeks are essentially every single week is over 3,000. Most of them are in the middle of 4,000 to 5,000, and some of them are close to 6 or 7,000. So I think the average is close to 5,000 now over the, let's say, couple of months or 3 or 4 months. And as Onvo ramp up, and most likely we will see that number to increase to 6 or 7,000 by end of the year. And these are, if you look at the monthly deliveries, and if you look at the chart for whatever is left for the end of the year, you can see that Nio is poised to do a really, really strong end of the year. So as we had, let's say, our 4 or 5 straight months of around 20,000 deliveries that you can see on, the blue bars there. But as you go, from September to October and November and then December, I expect Nio to kind of coming close to these numbers there. Maybe it's gonna be 24 or 25 for October, but I believe that's gonna be really close. And I've actually, if we go back and look at the current, month to date deliveries, we are roughly at around 10,300. I would say just below 10,000 because remember, we had this week here 4,700 for Nio, 900 for Onvo. Previous week was 4,500 for Nio, around a couple of hundred for Onvo. And then let's say one of, you see there it's 30th September to 6th of October. So one working day is actually in the previous month. So if you reduce, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 cars from these two numbers combined, we should be around 9,400-500 cars month to date, which would be to the 13th of, October. That's more than half of the month left. And I believe, we are well on our way to have a, I would be confident in 24. I would say, let's put it this way. I put a confidence interval, maybe, I don't know, 80% of 24,000, maybe 70% of 25,000, and 50% of 26,000. So yeah, I think it's even let's say 26,000 cars delivered for October is possible for me at this point. Remember that Nio is traditionally very, very strong at the end of the month, right? So whatever numbers you usually see in the first 2 weeks, you most likely always see a little bit of increase by end of the week, end of the month. As you can see, for example, look at August, week 1 3,300, week 2 the same, then bam 4,600, and then 6,000, right? So again, let's do September, 4,500, 4,200. Although a little bit of weaker of September, the third week. I think this is at the time actually that Onvo was starting to be manufactured. Could be a lot to do with that. So I think that was, some manufacturing capacity and, sales capacity going to Onvo maybe. That could be part of the reason. But anyway, so the longest of the terms, we've seen this trend at the end of the month is really strong. And we could see that again even in September last week was very, very strong. So yeah, I'm very happy. I think Nio at this kind of prices are starting to look really, really nice. I think it was very realistic that the stock kind of, needed a bit of breather for a while. You could possibly say that, at these kind of levels here looks very, very promising. And again, if you look at my sheet for Q3 and Q4, we know the delivery now on Q3, so 61,855 cars. Nice increase. I don't know, 7% or so, almost 8% increase compared to the previous quarter, which was an all-time high quarter. And then we know that another very important thing that I've been discussing over the last couple of months is the infrastructure and the Nio battery swap stations. And honestly, this is what impresses me the most actually over the past 6 months with Nio. I remember at the beginning of the year, I was a bit critical because I said that they should stop to expand the swap stations and focus on utilization. Remember, we always have at this point of they need around 60 swaps or so per station in order to make money, right? Or to break even on their swap stations. Now, sure, some people added that there's also additional revenue streams coming in, especially lately, where they, like, for example, do power balancing with their battery swap station. How do they do that? Well, you know that if the batteries are not used, they have, I don't know, 10, 13 or 15 different big batteries that are sitting there. And as no one is, using them sometimes, if they are not using them sometimes for swap stations, for swapping, then obviously they can, try to balance the load on the grid and make some money on that. So I think, in addition to that, but if you only look to only the battery swaps, like per car and per station, we can see that cars per swap. So this number is essentially how many cars does Nio have in the fleet, and how many swaps do we have daily. And if you take the relation between daily number of swaps for Nio globally, or at least locally in China, which is 99% of their swaps, and then look at the total fleet size, that's what you get, 8.4 or around 8 cars per swap. And if you look at the number of swaps per station, which is more, making sense, we can see that at the beginning of the year we were at around low 20s, and now we are, I think even we are some days well above 30. Remember that this number of average daily swaps are what that is averages. But I've seen like there's been a few days where they had like two or three or even almost 1 week of well above 100,000 swaps per day. So if we manage to have those numbers, we will very soon get to 40 swaps per station. I think even before the end of the year. So that's really promising. because how does that affect Nio, the balance sheet and the quarterly earnings? Well, we know that one of the main revenue share is from vehicle sales, and the other revenue share is coming obviously from other sales, which includes the battery swap stations. And as I've shown you, the other sales kind of grows a bit slower. It's more steady. For example, if you look at here on this graph here, so you can see the blue number is the revenue, the pink number is the vehicle sales, and then the other sales is the green one, which is down here actually. And as you can see, the vehicle sales is dependent on the number of cars sold. So on the quarters where they sell a little bit less cars, like Q3 of last year and Q4 of last year, then you'll see a hit to their numbers. But then again, if you look at if you actually, sorry, I think they had a bad Q1 as well, Q1 of 2024. But anyway, so if you look at the other sales, it's kind of steadily going up. And not only is it steadily going up, also the amount of money that they make on the other sales is kind of going up with time. So here you can see the delta between the cost of other sales and the other sales, so the revenue. And this number has most of the time been negative, which means they make a loss on the other sales. But as you can see, the delta here is kind of over the past 3 or 4 quarters starting to decrease to the point where I believe they will make a, maybe, I don't know, maybe a break even in the other sales already. As you can see, this is the break-even point for me according to my data, maybe by end of next year or early 2026. And this is very important because at some point in 2027 they will actually start to make money on their swap stations, and it could actually be faster because my numbers, I do believe that the consensus is that my numbers are a bit conservative, but I like it to be that way and be surprised on the upside. So yeah, please follow the channel. I'll make sure to update as usual about the weekly delivery numbers, especially for Nio, but also Xpeng. Hats off to the Xpeng team. They are doing really great with the new Mona 3 car and also the latest car that just got released, I think, a couple of days ago. So yeah, let's see what happens. So please like and subscribe and see you in the next one.